So go ahead, love her, be brave. Here is fantasy begging you to make it real. So erotic, so wanton, so gorgeous. Glittery, perhaps, but a beauty nonetheless. Where we walk together, people stare, men covet, and women whisper. In a restaurant in town one night, I overhear someone say, "Isn't that what's-her-name who was in La Dolce Vita?" And when I turn to look, for whom, Anuka May, I find that they're looking at us, at her who is with me. Vanity? Why not? Leave off with the blushing, bury the shame. You're no longer your mother's naughty little boy. Where appetite's concerned, a man in his 30s is responsible to no one but himself. That's what's so nice about growing up. You want to take? You take. Debauch a little bit, for Christ's sake. Stop denying yourself. Stop denying the truth. But there is, let us bow our heads, there is my dignity to consider, my good name, what people will think, what I will think. Doctor, this girl once did it for money. Money. Yes, I believe they call that prostitution. One night, to praise her, I imagined at any rate that that was my motive. I said, "You ought to market this. It's too much for one man. Just being chivalrous, you see. Or intuitive." Anyway, she answers, "I have." I wouldn't let her alone until she explained what she'd meant. At first, she claimed she was only being clever. But in the face of my cross-examination, she finally came up with this story which struck me as the truth, or a portion thereof. Just after Paris and her divorce, she had been flown out to Hollywood, she says, to be tested for a part in a movie, which she didn't get. I pressed for the name of the movie, but she claims to have forgotten, says it was never made. On the way back to New York from California, she and this girl she was with, who's this other girl? A girlfriend. Why were you traveling with another girl? I was. She and this other girl stopped off to see Las Vegas. There she went to bed with some guy that she met perfectly innocently, she maintains. However, to her complete surprise, in the morning he asked, "How much?" She says it just came out of her mouth. "Whatever it's worth, sport." So he offered her $300 bills. "And you took it?" I asked. "I was 20 years old. Sure, I took it to see what it felt like, that's all." "And what did it feel like, Mary Jane?" "I don't remember. Nothing. It didn't feel like anything." Well, what do you think? She claims it only happened that once, 10 years ago, and even then only came about through some accidental joining of his misunderstanding with her whimsy. But do you buy that? Should I? Is it impossible to believe that this girl may have put in some time as a high-priced call girl? Oh, Jesus. Take her, I think to myself, and I am no higher in the evolutionary scale than the mobsters and the millionaires who choose their women from the line at the Copa. This is the kind of girl ordinarily seen hanging from the arm of a mafioso or a movie star. Not the 1950 valedictorian of Weequahic High. Not the editor of the Columbia Law Review. Not the high-minded civil libertarian. Let's face it, whore or no whore, this is a clear-cut tootsie, right? Who looks at her with me knows precisely what I'm after in this life. This is what my father used to call a chippy. Of course. And can I bring home a chippy, Doctor? Mama, Papa, this is my wife, the chippy. Isn't she a wild piece of ass? Take her fully for my own, you see, and the whole neighborhood will know at last the truth about my dirty little mind. The so-called genius will be revealed in all his piggish proclivities and filthy desires. The bathroom door will swing open, unlocked, and behold, there sits the savior of mankind. Drool running down his chin, absolutely gaga in the eyes, and his prick firing salvos at the light bulb. A laughingstock at last, a bad boy, a shunda to his family forever. Oh, yes, I see it all. For my abominations, I awake one morning to find myself chained to a toilet in hell. Me and the other chippy-mongers of the world. Starkers, the devil will say, as we are issued our fresh white-on-white shirts, our sulka ties as we are fitted in our nifty new silk suits. Ganze Kanakas, big shots, with your long-legged women. Welcome. You really accomplished a lot in life, you fellows. You really distinguish yourselves all right. And you, in particular, he says, lifting a sardonic eyebrow in my direction, who entered the high school at the age of 12, who was an ambassador to the world from the Jewish community of Newark. Aha, I knew it. It's no devil in the proper sense. It's Fat Warshaw, the Reb, my stout and pompous spiritual leader, he of the sumptuous enunciation and the Pall Mall breath, Rabbi revered. It's the occasion of my bar mitzvah, and I stand shyly at his side, sopping it up like gravy, getting quite a little kick out of being sanctified. I'll tell you, Alexander Portnoy this and Alexander Portnoy that, and to tell you the absolute truth, that he talks in syllables and turns little words into big ones and big ones into whole sentences by themselves, to be frank, it doesn't seem to bother me as much as it would ordinarily. Oh, the sunny Saturday morning meanders slowly along as he lists my virtues and accomplishments to the assembled relatives and friends, syllable by syllable. Lay it on them, Warshaw. Blow my horn. Don't hurry yourself on my account. Please. I'm young. I can stand here all day if that's what has to be. Devoted son, loving brother, fantastic honor student, avid newspaper reader, up on every current event, knows the full names of each and every Supreme Court justice and cabinet member, also the minority and majority leaders of both houses of Congress, also the chairman of the important congressional committees. Entered Weequahic High School, this boy, at the age of 12, an IQ on him of 158, 158. And now, he tells the awed and beaming multitude whose adoration I feel palpitating upward and enveloping me there on the altar, why, I wouldn't be at all surprised if when he's finished, they don't pick me up and carry me around the synagogue like the Torah itself, bear me gravely up and down the aisles while the congregants struggle to touch their lips to some part of my new blue Orback suit, while the old men press forward to touch their taluses to my sparkling London character shoes. Let me touch. And when I'm world-renowned, they'll say to their grandchildren, yes, I was there. I was in attendance at the bar mitzvah of Chief Justice Portnoy. An ambassador, says Rabbi Warshaw. Now our ambassador extraordinary. Only the tune has changed, and how. Now, he says to me, with the mentality of a pimp, with the human values of a racehorse jockey. What is to him the heights of human experience? Walking into a restaurant with a long-legged curva on his arm, an easy lay in a body stocking. Oh, please, revered. I'm a big boy now, so you can knock off the rabbinical righteousness. Turns out to be a little laughable at this stage of the game. I happen to prefer beautiful and sexy to ugly and icy, so what's the tragedy? Why dress me up like a Las Vegas hood? Why chain me to a toilet bowl for eternity? For loving a saucy girl? Loving? You? Tooey on you. Self-loving, boy chick, that's how I spell it. With a capital self. Your heart is an empty refrigerator. Your blood flows in cubes. I'm surprised you don't clink when you walk. The saucy girl, so-called, I'll bet saucy, was a big, fat feather in your prick, and that alone is her total meaning, Alexander Portnoy. What you did with your promise. Disgusting. Love? Spelled L-U-S-T. Spelled S-E-L-F. But I felt stirrings in Howard Johnson's. In the prick, sure. No. Yes. That's the only part you ever felt a stirring in your life. You whiner, you big bundle full of resentments. Why, you've been stuck on yourself since the first grade, for Christ's sakes. Have not. Have. Have. This is the bottom truth, friend. Suffering mankind doesn't mean shit to you. That's a blind, buddy. And don't you kid yourself otherwise. Look, you call out to your brethren, look what I'm sticking my dickie into. Look who I'm fucking, a 50-foot fashion model. I get free what others pay upwards of $300 for. Oh boy, ain't that a human triumph, huh? Don't think that $300 don't titillate you plenty, 'cause it does. Only, how about look at what I'm loving, Portnoy? Please, don't you read the New York Times? I've spent my whole adult life protecting the rights of the defenseless. 5 years I was with the ACLU fighting the good fight for practically nothing. And before that, a congressional committee. I can make twice, 3 times the money in a practice of my own, but I don't. Now I've been appointed, don't you read the papers? I am now Assistant Commissioner of Human Opportunity, preparing a special report on bias in the building trades. Bullshit! Commissioner of Cunt, that's who you are. Commissioner of Human Opportunists. Oh, you jerk-off artist, you case of arrested development. All is vanity, Portnoy, but you really take the cake. 158 points of IQ, and all of it right down the drain. A lot of good it did to skip those 2 grades of grammar school, you dummy. What? And spending money your father sent yet to Antioch College that the man could hardly afford? All the faults come from the parents, right, Alex? What's wrong? They did. What's good? You accomplished all on your own. You ignoramus. You icebox heart. Why are you chained to a toilet? I'll tell you why. Poetic justice. So you can pull your Peter till the end of time. Jerk your precious little dum-dum ad infinitum. Go ahead. Pull off, Commissioner. That's all you ever really gave your heart to anyway. You stinking putz. I arrive in my tuxedo while she's still in the shower. The door's been left unlocked, apparently so I can come right in without disturbing her. She lives on the top floor of a big modern building in the East 80s, and it irritates me to think that anybody who happened through the corridor could walk in just as I have. I warn her of this through the shower curtain. She touches my cheek with her small, wet face. Why would anyone want to do that, she says. All my money's in the bank. That is not a satisfactory reply, I answer, and retreat to the living room, trying not to be vexed. I notice the slip of paper on the coffee table. Has a child been here, I wonder? No. I'm just face to face with my first specimen of the monkey's handwriting. A note to the cleaning lady. Though at first glance I imagine it must be a note from the cleaning lady. Must? Why must? Because she's mine? DIRWILA. Dear Willa, polish the FLOR floor by bathroom, please, PLEZE, please, and don't forget the INSIES of insides of windows, Mary Jane R. 3 times I read the sentence through, and as happens with certain texts, each reading reveals new subtleties of meaning and implication. Each reading augurs tribulations yet to be visited upon my ass. Why allow this affair to gather any more momentum? What was I thinking about in Vermont? Oh, that Z. That Z between the 2 E's of please. This is a mind with the depths of a movie marquee. And forget? Exactly how a prostitute would misspell that word. But it's something about the mangling of dear. That tender syllable of affection now collapsed into 3 lowercase letters that strikes me as hopelessly pathetic. How unnatural can a relationship be? This woman is ineducable and beyond reclamation. By contrast to hers, my childhood took place in Brahmin, Boston. What kind of business can the 2 of us have together? Monkey business. No business. The phone calls, for instance, I cannot tolerate those phone calls. Charmingly girlish she was when she warned me about telephoning all the time, but surprise, she meant it. I'm in my office. the indigent parents of a psychotic child are explaining to me that their offspring is being systematically starved to death in a city hospital. They've come to us bearing their complaint rather than to the Department of Hospitals because a brilliant lawyer in the Bronx has told them that their child is obviously the victim of discrimination. What I can gather from a call to the chief psychiatrist at the hospital is that the child refuses to ingest any food, takes it and holds it in his mouth for hours but refuses to swallow. I have then to tell these people that neither their child nor they are being victimized in the way or for the reason they believe. My answer strikes them as duplicitous. It strikes me as duplicitous. I think to myself, he'd swallow that food if he had my mother, and meanwhile express sympathy for their predicament. But now they refuse to leave my office until they see the mayor, as earlier they refused to leave the social worker's office until they had seen the commissioner. The father says that he'll have me fired, along with all the others responsible for starving to death a defenseless little child just because he's a Puerto Rican. Es contrario a la ley de discriminar contra cualquier persona, reading to me out of the bilingual CCHO handbook that I wrote. At which point the phone rings. The Puerto Rican is shouting at me in Spanish, my mother is waving a knife at me back in my childhood, and my secretary announces that Miss Reed would like to speak to me on the telephone for the third time that day. I miss you, Arnold, the monkey whispers. I'm afraid I'm busy right now. I do love you. Yes, fine. May I speak with you later about this? How I want that long, sleek cock inside me. Bye now. What else is wrong with her while we're at it? She moves her lips when she reads. Petty? You think so? Ever sit across the dinner table from a woman with whom you're supposedly having an affair, a 29-year-old person, and watch her lips move while she looks down the movie page for a picture the two of you can see? I know what's playing before she even tells me, from reading the lips. And the books I bring her, she carries them around from job to job in her tote bag. To read? No. So as to impress some fairy photographer, to impress passers-by in the street, strangers, with her many-sided character. Look at that girl with that smashing ass, carrying a book with real words in it. The day after our return from Vermont, I bought a copy of Let Us Now Praise Famous Men, wrote on a card, to the staggering girl, and had it gift-wrapped for presentation that night. Tell me books to read, okay? This, the touching plea she made that night we returned to the city. Because why should I be dumb if, like you say, I'm so smart? So, here was A.G. to begin with, and with the Walker Evans photographs to help her along. A book to speak to her of her own early life, to enlarge her perspective on her origins. Origins, of course, holding far more fascination for the nice left-wing Jewish boy than for the proletarian girl herself. How earnest I was compiling that reading list. Boy, was I going to improve her mind. After A.G., Atomix Dynamite, my own yellowing copy from college. I imagined her benefiting from my undergraduate underlinings, coming to understand the distinction between the relevant and the trivial, a generalization and an illustration, and so on. Furthermore, it was a book so simply written that hopefully, without my pushing her, she might be encouraged to read not just the chapters I had suggested, those touching directly upon her own past, as I imagined it, violence in the coal fields, beginning with the Molly Maguires, the chapter on the Wobblies, but the entire history of brutality and terror practiced by and upon the American laboring class from which she was descended. Had she never read a book called USA? Mortimer snurred. Duh, I never read nothing, Mr. Bergen. So I bought her The Modern Library dos Passos, a book with a hardcover. Simple, I thought. Keep it simple, but educational, elevating. You get the dreamy point, I'm sure. The texts, W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folk, The Grapes of Wrath, An American Tragedy. A book of Sherwood Anderson's I like called Poor White. The title, I thought, might stir her interest. Baldwin's Notes of a Native Son. The name of the course? Oh, I don't know. Professor Portnoy's Humiliated Minorities, an Introduction. The History and Function of Hatred in America. The purpose? To save the stupid Shiksa, to rid her of her race's ignorance, to make this daughter of the heartless oppressor a student of suffering and oppression, to teach her to be compassionate, to bleed a little for the world's sorrows. Get it now? The perfect couple. She puts the id back in yid. I put the oi back in goy. Where am I? Tuxedoed, all civilized up in my evening clothes, and DIRWILLA, Dear Willa, still sizzling in my hand, as the monkey emerges wearing the frock she's brought specifically for the occasion. What occasion? Where does she think we're going? To shoot a dirty movie? Doctor, it barely reaches her ass. It's crocheted of some kind of gold metallic yarn and covers nothing but a body stocking the color of her skin. And to top this modest outfit off, over her real head of hair, she wears a wig inspired by Little Orphan Annie, an oversized aureole of black corkscrew curls out of whose center pokes this dumb, painted face. What a mean little mouth it gives her. She really is from West Virginia, the miner's daughter in the Neon City, and this, I think, is how she is going with me to the mayor's, looking like a stripper. Dear, and she spells it with 3 letters, and hasn't read 2 pages of the AG book in an entire week. Has she even looked at the pictures? Duh, I doubt it. Oh, wrong. I think, jamming her note into my pocket for a keepsake. I can have it laminated for $1 the next day. Wrong. This is somebody whom I picked up off the street, who sucked me off before she even knew my name, who once peddled her ass in Las Vegas, if not elsewhere. Just look at her. A moll. The Assistant Human Opportunity Commissioner's moll. What kind of dream am I living in? Being with such a person is, for me, all wrong. Meaningless. A waste of everybody's energy and character and time. Okay, says the monkey in the taxi. What's bugging you, Max? Nothing. You hate the way I look. Ridiculous. Driver, peck and peck. Shut up. Gracie Mansion, driver. I'm getting radiation poisoning, Alex, from what you're giving off. I'm not giving off shit. I've said nothing. You got those black Hebe eyes, man. They say it for you. Tutti. Relax, monkey. You relax. I am. But my manly resolve lasts about a minute more. Only for Christ's sakes, I tell her. Don't say cunt to Mary Lindsay. What? You heard right. When we get there, don't start talking about your wet pussy to whoever opens the door. Don't make a grab for Big John Schlong until we've been there at least half an hour, okay? With this, a hiss like the sound of air brakes rises from the driver, and the monkey heaves herself in a rage against the rear door. I'll say and do and wear anything I want. This is a free country, you uptight Jewish prick. You should have seen the look given us upon disembarking by Mr. Manny Shapiro, our driver. Rich Tchaikovs, he yells. Nazi bitch! And burns rubber pulling away. From where we sit on a bench in Carl Schurz Park, we can see the lights in Gracie Mansion. I watch the other members of the new administration arriving as I stroke her arm, kiss her forehead, tell her there's no reason to cry, the fault is mine. Yes, I am an uptight Jewish prick, and apologize. Picking on me all the time, and just the way you look at me, you pick on me, Alex. I open the door at night. I'm so dying to see you, thinking all day long about nothing but you, and there are those fucking orbs already picking out every single thing that's wrong with me. As if I'm not insecure enough, as if my insecurity isn't my whole hang-up. You get that expression all over your face the minute I open my mouth. I mean, I can't even give you the time of day without the look. Oh shit, here comes another dumb and stupid remark out of that brainless twat. I say it's 5 to 7, and you think, how fucking dumb can she be? Well, I'm not brainless, and I'm not a twat either, just because I didn't go to fucking Harvard. And don't give me any more of your shit about behaving in front of the Lindsays. Just who the fuck are the Lindsays? Goddamn mayor and his wife? Fucking mayor? In case you forget, I was married to one of the richest men in France when I was still 18 years old. I was a guest at Ali Khan's for dinner when you were still back in Newark, New Jersey, finger-fucking your little Jewish girlfriends. Was this my idea of a love affair, she asked, sobbing miserably, to treat a woman like a leper? I wanted to say, maybe then this isn't a love affair. Maybe it's what's called a mistake. Maybe we should just go our different ways with no hard feelings. But I didn't, for fear she might commit suicide. Hadn't she 5 minutes earlier tried to throw herself out the rear door of the taxi? So suppose I had said, "Look, monkey, this is it." What was to stop her from rushing across the park and leaping to her death in the East River? Doctor, you must believe me, this was a real possibility. This is why I said nothing. But then her arms were around my neck and oh, she said plenty. I love you, Alex. I worship and adore you. So don't put me down, please. Because I couldn't take it. Because you're the very best man, woman, or child I've ever known in the whole animal kingdom. Oh, Breaky, you have a big brain and a big cock, and I love you. And then, on a bench no more than 200 feet from the Lindsay's mansion, she buried her wig in my lap and proceeded to suck me off. Monkey, no, I pleaded, no. As she passionately zipped open my black trousers, there were plainclothesmen everywhere, referring to the policing of Gracie Mansion and its environs. They'll haul us in, creating a public nuisance. Monkey, the cops. But turning her ambitious lips up from my open fly, she whispered, "Only in your imagination." A not unsubtle retort, if meant subtly. And then down she burrowed, some furry little animal in search of a home, and mastered me with her mouth. At dinner, I overheard her telling the mayor that she modeled during the day and took courses at Hunter at night. Not a word about a cunt, as far as I could tell. The next day she went off to Hunter, and that night, for surprise, showed me the application blank she had gotten from the admissions office, which I praised her for, and which she never filled out, of course, except for her age, 29. A fantasy of the monkeys, dating from her high school years in Moundsville. The reverie she lived in while others learned to read and write. Around a big conference table, at rigid attention, sit all the boys in West Virginia who are seeking admission to West Point. Underneath the table, crawling on her hands and knees and nude, is our gawky teenage illiterate Mary Jane Reed. A West Point colonel with a swagger stick tap-tapping behind his back circles and circles the perimeter of the table, scrutinizing the faces of the young men, as out of sight Mary Jane proceeds to undo their trousers and to blow each of the candidates in his turn. The boy selected for admission to the military academy will be he who is most able to maintain a stern and dignified soldierly bearing while shooting off into Mary Jane's savage and knowing little weapon of a mouth. 10 months. Incredible. For in that time, not a day, very likely not an hour, passed that I did not ask myself, why continue with this person, this brutalized woman, this coarse, tormented, self-loathing, bewildered, lost, identityless, and so on. The list was inexhaustible. I reviewed it interminably. And to remember the ease with which I had plucked her off the street, the sexual triumph of my life, well, that made me groan with disgust. How can I go on and on with someone whose reason and judgment and behavior I can't possibly respect, who sets off inside me daily explosions of disapproval, hourly thunderclaps of admonition? And the sermonizing, oh, what a schoolmaster I became. When she bought me those Italian loafers for my birthday, for instance, such a lecture I gave in return. Look, I said once we were out of the store, a little shopping advice. When you go off to do something so very simple as exchanging money for goods, it isn't necessary to flash your snatch at everyone this side of the horizon, okay? Flash what? Who flashed anything? You, Mary Jane. Your supposedly private parts. I did not. Please. Every time you stood up, every time you sat down, I thought you were going to get yourself hooked by your pussy on the salesman's nose. Jesus, I gotta sit, I gotta stand, don't I? But not like you're climbing on and off a horse. Well, I don't know what's bugging you. He was a faggot anyway. What's bugging me is that the space between your legs has now been seen by more people than watch Huntley and Brinkley. So why not bow out while you're still champeen, all right? Yet even as I make my accusation, I'm saying to myself, oh, lay off, little boy blue. If you want a lady instead of a cunt, then get yourself one. Who's holding you here? Because this city, as we know, is alive with girls wholly unlike Miss Mary Jane Reed. Promising, unbroken, uncontaminated young women. Healthy, in fact, as milkmaids. I know because these were her predecessors. Only they didn't satisfy either. They were wrong, too. Spielvogel, believe me, I've been there. I've tried. I've eaten their casseroles and shaved in their johns. I've been given duplicate keys to their police locks and shelves of my own in the medicine chest. I've even befriended those cats of theirs, named Spinoza and Clytemnestra and Candide and Cat, yes, clever and erudite girls fresh from successful adventures in sex and scholarship at wholesome Ivy League colleges, lively, intelligent, self-respecting, self-assured, and well-behaved young women. Social workers and research assistants, school teachers and copy readers, girls in whose company I did not feel abject or ashamed, girls I did not have to father or mother or educate or redeem. And they didn't work out either. Kay Campbell, my girlfriend at Antioch, could there have been a more exemplary person? Artless, sweet-tempered, without a trace of morbidity or egoism, a thoroughly commendable and worthy human being. And where is she now, that find? Hello, pumpkin, making some lucky shay gets a wonderful wife out there in Middle America? How could she do otherwise? Edited the literary magazine, walked off with all the honors in English literature, picketed with me and my outraged friends outside of the barber shop in Yellow Springs where they wouldn't cut Negro hair, a robust, genial, large-hearted, large-ass girl with a sweet baby face, yellow hair, no tits, unfortunately. Essentially, titless women seem to be my destiny, by the way. And why is that? Is there an essay somewhere I can read on that? Is it of import? Or shall I go on? And those peasant legs. And the blouse always hanging loose from a skirt at the back. How moved I was by that blithesome touch, and by the fact that on high heels she looked like a cat stuck up a tree, in trouble, out of her element, all wrong. Always the first of the Antioch nymphs to go barefoot to class in spring. The pumpkin is what I called her, in commemoration of her pigmentation and the size of a can. Also her solidity, hard as a gourd on matters of moral principle, beautifully stubborn in a way I couldn't but envy and adore. She never raised her voice in an argument. Can you imagine the impression this made on me at 17, fresh from my engagement with the Jack and Sophie Portnoy Debating Society? Who had ever heard of such an approach to controversy? Never ridiculed her opponent, or seemed to hate him for his ideas. Aha! So this is what it means to be a child of Goyim. Valedictorian of a high school in Iowa instead of New Jersey. Yes, this is what the Goyim who have got something have got. Authority without the temper. Virtue without the self-congratulation. Confidence, sans swagger, or condescension. Come on, let's be fair and give the Goyim their due, Doctor. When they're impressive, they are very impressive. So sound. Yes, that's what hypnotized. The hardiness, the sturdiness. In a word, her pumpkinness. My wholesome, big-bottomed, lipstickless, barefooted shiksa. Where are you now, KK? Mother to how many? Did you wind up really fat? So what? Suppose you're as big as a house. You need a showcase for that character of yours. The very best of the Middle West. So why? Why did I let her go? I'll get to that. No worry. Self-laceration is never more than a memory away. You know that by now. In the meantime, let me miss her substantiality a little. That buttery skin. That unattended streaming hair. And this is back in the early 50s before streaming hair became the style. This was just naturalness, Doctor. Round and ample, sun-colored K. I'll bet that half a dozen kiddies are clinging to that girl's abundant behind. So unlike the monkey's hard little handful of a model's ass. I'll bet you bake your own bread, right? The way you did that hot spring night in my Yellow Springs apartment, in your half-slip and brassiere, with flour in your ears and your hairline damp with perspiration, remember? Showing me, despite the temperature, how real bread should taste. You could have used my heart for batter. That's how soft it felt. I'll bet you live where the air is still unpoisoned and nobody locks his door, and still don't give two shits about money or possessions. Hey, I don't either, pumpkin. Still unbesmirched myself on those and related middle-class issues. Oh, perfectly ill-proportioned girl. No mile-long mannequin you. So she had no tits, so what? Slight as a butterfly through the ribcage and neck, but planted like a bear beneath. Rooted. That's what I'm getting at. Joined by those linemen's legs to this American ground. Oh, you should have heard Kay Campbell when we went around Greene County ringing doorbells for Stevenson in our sophomore year. Confronted with the most awesome Republican small-mindedness, a stinginess and bleakness of spirit that could absolutely bend the mind, the pumpkin never was anything but ladylike. I was a barbarian. No matter how dispassionately I began, or condescendingly, because that's how it came out, I invariably wound up in a sweat and a rage, sneering, insulting, condemning, toe-to-toe with those terrible pinched people, calling their beloved Ike an illiterate, a political and moral moron. Probably I'm as responsible as anyone for Adlai losing as badly as he did in Ohio. The pumpkin, however, gave such unflawed and kindly attention to the opposition point of view that I expected sometimes for her to turn and say to me, "Why, Alex, I think Mr. Yokel is right. I think maybe he is too soft on communism." But no, when the last idiocy had been uttered about our candidates' socialistical and or pinko ideas, the final condemnation made of his sense of humor, the pumpkin proceeded ceremoniously and, awesome feat, without a hint of sarcasm. She might have been the judge at a pie baking contest. Such a perfect blend was she of sobriety and good humor, proceeded to correct Mr. Yokel's errors of fact and logic, even to draw attention to his niggardly morality. Unencumbered by the garbled syntax of the apocalypse, or the ill-mannered vocabulary of desperation, without the perspiring upper lip, the constricted and air-hungry throat, the flush of loathing on the forehead, she may even have swayed half a dozen people in the county. Christ, yes, this was one of the great shickses. I might have learned something spending the rest of my life with such a person. Yes, I might, if I could learn something. If I could be somehow sprung from this obsession with fellatio and fornication, from romance and fantasy, and revenge from the settling of scores, the pursuit of dreams, from this hopeless, senseless loyalty to the long ago. In 1950, just 17, and Newark 2.5 months behind me. Well, not exactly behind. In the mornings, I awake in the dormitory, baffled by the unfamiliar blanket in my hand and the disappearance of one of my windows. Oppressed and distraught for minutes on end by this unanticipated transformation given my bedroom by my mother, I perform the most openly defiant act of my life. Instead of going home for my first college vacation, I travel by train to Iowa to spend Thanksgiving with the pumpkin and her parents. Till September, I had never been farther west than Lake Hopatcong in New Jersey. Now I'm off to Iowa, and with a blondie of the Christian religion. Who is more stunned by this desertion, my family or me? What daring? Or was I no more daring than a sleepwalker? The white clapboard house in which the pumpkin had grown up might have been the Taj Mahal for the emotions it released in me. Balboa, maybe, knows what I felt upon first glimpsing the swing tied up to the ceiling of the front porch. She was raised in this house. The girl who has let me undo her brassiere and dry hump her at the dormitory door grew up in this white house, behind those Goyische curtains. Look, shutters. Daddy, Mother, says the pumpkin when we disembark at the Davenport train station. This is the weekend guest. This is the friend from school whom I wrote you about. I am something called a weekend guest. I am something called a friend from school. What tongue is she speaking? I'm the bandit, the Vance. I'm the insurance man's son. I am Warshaw's ambassador. How do you do, Alex? To which I, of course, reply, thank you. Whatever anybody says to me during my first 24 hours in Iowa, I answer, thank you. Even to inanimate objects. I walk into a chair. Promptly I say to it, excuse me, thank you. I drop my napkin on the floor, lean down flushing to pick it up. Thank you, I hear myself saying to the napkin. Or is it the floor I'm addressing? Would my mother be proud of her little gentleman, polite even to the furniture? Then there's an expression in English, good morning, or so I've been told. The phrase has never been of any particular use to me. Why should it have been? At breakfast at home, I am in fact known to the other boarders as Mr. Sourball and the Crab. But suddenly, here in Iowa, in imitation of the local inhabitants, I'm transformed into a veritable geyser of good mornings. That's all anybody around that place knows how to say. They feel the sunshine on their faces, and it just sets off some sort of chemical reaction. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Sung to a half a dozen different tunes. Next, they all start asking each other if they had a good night's sleep. And asking me, did I have a good night's sleep? I don't really know. I have to think. The question comes as something of a surprise. Did I have a good night's sleep? Why, yes, I think I did. Hey, did you? Like a log, replies Mr. Campbell, and for the first time in my life, I experienced the full force of a simile. This man, who is a real estate broker and an alderman of the Davenport Town Council, says that he slept like a log, and I actually see a log. I get it. Motionless, heavy, like a log. Good morning, he says. And now it occurs to me that the word morning, as he uses it, refers specifically to the hours between 8 a.m. and 12 noon. I'd never thought of it that way before. He wants the hours between 8 and 12 to be good, which is to say enjoyable, pleasurable, beneficial. We are, all of us, wishing each other 4 hours of pleasure and accomplishment. Why, that's terrific. Hey, that's very nice. Good morning. And the same applies to good afternoon, and good evening, and good night. My God, the English language is a form of communication. Conversation isn't just crossfire where you shoot and get shot at, where you've got to duck for your life and aim to kill. Words aren't only bombs and bullets, no. They're little gifts containing meanings. Wait, I'm not finished. As if the experience of being on the inside rather than on the outside of these Goyische curtains isn't overwhelming enough, as if the incredible experience of my wishing hour upon hour of pleasure to a house full of Goyim isn't sufficient source for bewilderment, there is, to compound the ecstasy of disorientation, the name of the street upon which the Campbell house stands. The street where my girlfriend grew up, skipped, skated, hopscotched, sledded. All the while I dreamed of her existence some 1,500 miles away in what they tell me is the same country. The street name? Not Xanadu, no. Better even than that. Oh, more preposterous by far. Elm. It is, you see, as though I've walked right through the orange celluloid station band of our old Zenith, directly into that program. One man's family. Elm. Where trees grow, which must be elms. To be truthful, I must admit that I'm not able to draw such a conclusion first thing upon alighting from the Campbell car on Wednesday night. After all, it's taken me 17 years to recognize an oak, and even there I'm lost without the acorns. What I see first in a landscape isn't the flora, believe me, it's the fauna, the human opposition, who is screwing and who is getting screwed. Greenery, I leave to the birds and the bees. They have their worries, I have mine. At home, who knows the name of what grows from the pavement at the front of our house? It's a tree, and that's it. The kind is of no consequence. Who cares what kind, just as long as it doesn't fall down on your head? In the autumn, or is it the spring? Do you know this stuff? I'm pretty sure it's not the winter. There drop from its branches long crescent-shaped pods containing hard little pellets. Okay, here's a scientific fact about our tree. Comes by way of my mother, Sophie Linnaeus. If you shoot those pellets through a straw, you can take somebody's eye out and make him blind for life. So, never do it. Not even in jest, and if anybody does it to you, you tell me instantly. And this, more or less, is the sort of botanical knowledge I'm equipped with, until that Sunday afternoon when we're leaving the Campbell house for the train station, and I have my Archimedean experience. Elm Street. Then, elm, trees. How simple. I mean, you don't need 158 points of IQ. You don't have to be a genius to make sense of this world. It is really all so very simple. A memorable weekend in my lifetime. Equivalent in human history, I would say, to mankind's passage through the entire Stone Age. Every time Mr. Campbell called his wife Mary, my body temperature shot into the hundreds. There I was, eating off dishes that had been touched by the hands of a woman named Mary. Is there a clue here as to why I so resisted calling the monkey by her name, except to chastise her? No? Please, I pray on the train heading west, let there be no pictures of Jesus Christ in the Campbell house. Let me get through this weekend without having to see his pathetic punim or deal with anyone wearing a cross. When the aunts and uncles come for the Thanksgiving dinner, please, please let there be no anti-Semite among them. Because if someone starts in with the pushy Jews or says kike or Jewed him down, well, I'll Jew them down all right. I'll Jew their fucking teeth down their throat. No violence, as if I even had it in me. Let them be violent. That's their way. No, I'll rise from my seat and would then make a speech. I will shame and humiliate them in their bigoted hearts. Quote the Declaration of Independence over their candied yams. Who the fuck are they, I'll ask, to think they own Thanksgiving? Then at the railroad station, her father says, "How do you do, young man?" And I, of course, answer, "Thank you." Why is he acting so nice? Because he's been forewarned, which I don't know whether to take as an insult or a blessing, or because he doesn't know yet. Shall I say it then before we even get into the car? Yes, I must. I can't go on living a lie. Well, it sure is nice being here in Davenport, Mr. and Mrs. Campbell, what with my being Jewish and all. Not quite ringing enough, perhaps. Well, as a friend of Kay's, Mr. and Mrs. Campbell, and a Jew, I do want to thank you for inviting me. Now, stop pussyfooting. What then? Talk Yiddish? How? I got 25 words to my name, half of them dirty and the rest mispronounced. Shit. Just shut up and get in the car. Thank you. Thank you, I say, picking up my own bag, and we all head for the station wagon. Kay and I climb into the back seat with the dog. Kay's dog, to whom she talks as though he's human. Wow, she really is a goy. What a stupid thing to talk to a dog. Except Kay isn't stupid. In fact, I think she's smarter really than I am. And yet talks to a dog? As far as dogs are concerned, Mr. and Mrs. Campbell, we Jews, by and large... Oh, forget it. Not necessary. You are ignoring anyway, or trying awfully hard to, that eloquent appendage called your nose. Not to mention the Afro-Jewish hairpiece. Of course they know. Sorry, but there's no escaping destiny, Booby. A man's cartilage is his fate. But I don't want to escape. Well, that's nice too, because you can't. Oh, but yes, I can if I should want to. But you said you didn't want to. But if I did. As soon as I entered the house, I began, on the sly and somewhat to my own surprise, to sniff. What will the odor be like? Mashed potatoes? An old lady's dress? Fresh cement? I sniff and I sniff, trying to catch the scent. There. Is that it? Is that Christianity I smell? Or just the dog? Everything I see, taste, touch, I think, goyish. My first morning I squeezed half an inch of Pepsodent down the drain rather than put my brush where Kay's mother or father may have touched the bristles with which they cleanse their own goyish molars. True. The soap on the sink is bubbly with foam from somebody's hands. Whose? Mary's? Should I just take hold of it and begin to wash? Or should I maybe run a little water over it first, just to be safe? But safe from what? Schmuck. Maybe you want to get a piece of soap to wash the soap with. I tiptoe to the toilet. I peer over into the bowl. Well, there it is, boy. A real goyish toilet bowl. The genuine article. Where your girlfriend's father drops his Gentile turds. What do you think, huh? Pretty impressive? Obsessed? Spellbound. Next, I have to decide whether or not to line the seat. It isn't a matter of hygiene. I'm sure the place is clean, spotless in its own particular antiseptic goy way. The question is, what if it's warm yet from a camel behind? From her mother. Mary. Mother also of Jesus Christ. If only for the sake of my family, maybe I should put a little paper around the rim. It doesn't cost anything, and who will ever know? I will. So down I go, and it is warm. Yay! 17 years old, and I am rubbing asses with the enemy. How far I have traveled since September. By the waters of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. And yea is right. On the can, I'm besieged by doubt and regret. I am suddenly languishing with all my heart for home. When my father drives out to buy real apple cider at the roadside farmer's market off in Union, I won't be with him. And how can Hannah and Morty go to the Weequahic Hillside game Thanksgiving morning without me along to make them laugh? Jesus, I hope we win. Which is to say lose by less than 21 points. Beat Hillside, you bastards. WEEQUAHIC. Bernie, Sydney, Leon, Oshie, come on, backfield, fight. Aye, kayakas, nobody likes us. We are the boys of Weequahic High. Aye, kayakas, Kishmir and Tuches. We are the boys of Weequahic High. Come on, hold that line, make that point, kick 'em in the kishkas, go team, go. See, I'm missing my chance to be clever and quick-witted in the stands, to show off my sarcastic and mocking tongue, and after the game, missing the historical Thanksgiving meal prepared by my mother, that freckled and red-headed descendant of Polish Jews. Oh, how the blood will flow out of their faces, what a deathly silence will prevail when she holds up the huge drumstick and cries, "Here, for guess who?" And guess who is found to be AWOL? Why have I deserted my family? Maybe around the table we don't look like a painting by Norman Rockwell, but we have a good time too, don't you worry. We don't go back to Plymouth Rock. No Indian ever brought maize to any member of our family as far as we know. But just smell that stuffing. And look, cylinders of cranberry sauce at either end of the table. And the turkey's name? Tom. Why can't I believe I'm eating my dinner in America? That America is where I am, instead of some other place to which I will one day travel, as my father and I must travel every November out to that hayseed and his wife in Union, New Jersey, the two of them in overalls, for real Thanksgiving apple cider. I'm going to Iowa, I tell them from the phone booth on my floor. To where? To Davenport, Iowa. On your first college vacation? I know, but it's a great opportunity and I can't turn it down. Opportunity? To what? Yes, to spend Thanksgiving with this boy named Bill Campbell's family. Who? Campbell, like the soup. He lives in my dorm. But they are expecting me. Everybody is expecting me. Morty has tickets to the game. What am I talking? Opportunity. And who is this boy all of a sudden, Campbell? My friend, Bill. But, says my father, the cider. Oh my God, it's happened. What I swore I wouldn't permit, I am in tears. And cider is the little word that does it. The man is a natural. He could go on Groucho Marx and win a fortune guessing the secret word. He guesses mine every time and wins my jackpot of contrition. I can't back out. I'm sorry. I've accepted. We're going. Going? And how, Alex? I don't understand this plan at all, interrupts my mother. How are you going, if I may be so bold, and where? And in a convertible too? That too? No. And if the highways are icy, Alex, we're going, Mother, in a Sherman tank, okay? Okay? Alex, she says sternly, I hear it in your voice. I know you're not telling me the whole truth. You're going to hitchhike in a convertible or some other crazy thing. 2 months away from home, 17 years old, and he's going wild. 16 years ago, I made that phone call. A little more than half the age I am now. November 1950. Here, it's tattooed on my wrist. The date of my Emancipation Proclamation. Children unborn when I first telephoned my parents to say I wasn't coming home from college or just entering college. I suppose only I'm still telephoning my parents to say I'm not coming home. Fighting off my family still. What use to skip those 2 grades in grammar school and get such a jump on everybody else when the result is to wind up so far behind? My early promise is legend, starring in all those grade school plays, taking on at the age of 12 the entire DAR. Why then do I live by myself and have no children of my own? It's no non sequitur, that question. Professionally, I'm going somewhere, granted, but privately, what have I got to show for myself? Children should be playing on this earth who look like me. Why not? Why should every stunk with a picture window and a carport have offspring and not me? It don't make sense. Think of it. Half the race is over, and I still stand here at the starting line. Me, the first one out of his swaddling clothes and into his tracksuit. 158 points of IQ and still arguing with the authorities about the rules and regulations. Disputing the course to be run, calling into question the legitimacy of the track commission. Yes, Crab is correct, Mother. Sourball is perfect, right on the nose's nose. Mr. Conniption Fit. C'est moi. Another of these words I went through childhood thinking of as Jewish. Conniption. Go ahead, have a conniption fit, my mother would advise. See if it changes anything, my brilliant son. And how I tried, how I used to hurl myself against the walls of her kitchen. Mr. Hot under the collar, Mr. Hit the ceiling, Mr. Fly off the handle. The names I earned for myself. God forbid somebody should look at you cockeyed, Alex. Their life isn't worth 2 cents. Mr. Always Right and Never Wrong. Grumpy from the 7 Dwarfs is visiting us, Daddy. Ah, Hannah, your brother Surly has honored us with his presence this evening. It's a pleasure to have you, Surly. Hi-ho, Silver, she sighs as I rush into my bedroom to sink my fangs into the bedspread. The temper tantrum kid rides again. Near the end of our junior year, Kay missed a period, and so we began, and with a certain eager delight, and wholly without panic, interestingly, to make plans to be married. We would offer ourselves as resident babysitters to a young faculty couple who were fond of us. In return, they would give us their roomy attic to live in and a shelf to use in their refrigerator. We would wear old clothes and eat spaghetti. Kay would write poetry about having a baby and, she said, type term papers for extra money. We had our scholarships. What more did we need? Besides a mattress, some bricks and boards for bookshelves, Kay's Dylan Thomas record, and in time, a crib. We thought of ourselves as adventurers. I said, and you'll convert, right? I intended the question to be received as ironic, or thought I had, but Kay took it seriously. Not solemnly, mind you, just seriously. Kay Campbell, Davenport, Iowa. Why would I want to do a thing like that? Great girl. Marvelous, ingenuous, candid girl. Content, you see, to be what she was, what one dies for in a woman, I now realize. Why would I want to do a thing like that? And nothing blunt or defensive or arch or superior in her tone, just common sense, plainly spoken. Only it put our Portnoy into a rage, incensed the temper tantrum kid. What do you mean, why would you want to do a thing like that? Why do you think, you simpleton goy? Go talk to your dog. Ask him. Ask Spot what he thinks, that four-legged genius. Want KK to be your juice body? Huh, big fella, huh? Just what the fuck makes you so self-satisfied anyway? That you carry on conversations with dogs? That you know an elm when you see one? That your father drives a station wagon made out of wood? What's your hotsy-totsy accomplishment in life, baby? That Doris Day snout? I was, fortunately, so astonished by my indignation that I couldn't begin to voice it. How could I be feeling a wound in a place where I was not even vulnerable? What did Kay and I care less about than 1, money, and 2, religion? Our favorite philosopher was Bertrand Russell. Our religion was Dylan Thomas's religion, truth and joy. Our children would be atheists. I'd only been making a joke. Nonetheless, it would seem that I never forgave her. In the weeks following our false alarm, she came to seem to me boringly predictable in conversation and about as desirable as blubber in bed. And it surprised me that she could take it so badly when I finally had to tell her that I didn't seem to care for her anymore. I was very honest, you see, as Bertrand Russell said I should be. I just don't want to see you anymore, Kay. I can't hide my feelings. I'm sorry. She wept pitifully. She carried around the campus terrible little pouches underneath her bloodshot blue eyes. She didn't show up for meals. She missed classes. I was astonished, because all along I thought it was I who had loved her, not she who had loved me. What a surprise to discover just the opposite to have been the case. 20 and spurning one's mistress. That first unsullied thrill of sadism with a woman. And the dream of the women to come. I returned to New Jersey that June, buoyant with my own strength, wondering how I could ever have been so captivated by someone so ordinary and so fat. Another Gentile heart broken by me belonged to the Pilgrim, Sarah Abbott Malsby, New Canaan, Foxcroft, and Vassar, where she had, as companion, stabled in Poughkeepsie, that other flaxen beauty, her Palomino. A tall, gentle, decorous 22-year-old, fresh from college and working as a receptionist in the office of the senator from Connecticut when we two met and coupled in the fall of 1959. I was on the staff of the House subcommittee investigating the television quiz scandals. Perfect for a closet socialist like myself. Commercial deceit on a national scale. Exploitation of the innocent public. Elaborate corporate chicanery. In short, good old capitalist greed. And then, of course, that extra bonus. Charlotte and Van Doren. Such character. Such brains and breeding. That candor and schoolboyish charm, the wasp, wouldn't you say? And turns out he's a fake. Well, what do you know about that, Gentile America? Super goy agonif. Steals money, covets money, wants money, will do anything for it. Goodness gracious me, almost as bad as Jews, you sanctimonious wasps. Oh, yes. I was one happy yiddle down there in Washington, a little stern gang of my own, busily exploding Charlie's honor and integrity while simultaneously becoming lover to that aristocratic Yankee beauty whose forebears arrived on these shores in the 17th century. Phenomenon known as hating your goy and eating one too. Why didn't I marry that beautiful and adoring girl? I remember her in the gallery, pale and enchanting in a navy blue suit with gold buttons, watching with such pride, with such love, as I took on one afternoon, in my first public cross-examination, a very slippery network PR man. And I was impressive, too, for my first time out. Cool, lucid, persistent, just the faintest hammering of the heart, and only 26 years old. Oh, yeah, when I'm holding all the moral cards Watch out, you crooks, you. I am nobody to futz around with when I know myself to be 400% in the right. Why didn't I marry the girl? Well, there was her cutesy-wootsy boarding school argot, for one. Couldn't bear it. Barf for vomit, ticked off for angry, a howl for funny, crackers for crazy, teeny for tiny. Oh, and divine. What Mary Jane Reid means by groovy. I'm always telling these girls how to talk right. Me with my 500-word New Jersey vocabulary. Then there were the nicknames of her friends. There were the friends themselves. Pooty and Pip and Pebble, Shrimp and Brute and Tug, Squeak, Bumpo, Baba. It sounded, I said, as though she had gone to Vassar with Donald Duck's nephews. But then my argot caused her some pain, too. The first time I said fuck in her presence, and the presence of friend Pebble in her Peter Pan collar and a cable-stitched cardigan, and tanned like an Indian from so much tennis at the Chevy Chase Club, such a look of agony passed over the pilgrim's face. You would have thought I had just branded the 4 letters on her flesh. Why, she asked so plaintively once we were alone, why had I to be so unattractive? What possible pleasure had it given me to be so ill-mannered? What on earth had I proved? Why did you have to be so pussy like that? It was so uncalled for. Pussy being debutante for disagreeable. In bed, nothing fancy, no acrobatics or feats of daring and skill. As we screwed our first time, so we continued. I assaulted and she surrendered. And the heat generated on her mahogany 4-poster, a Malsby family heirloom, was considerable. Our one peripheral delight was the full-length mirror on the back of the bathroom door. There, standing thigh to thigh, I would whisper, "Look, Sarah, look." At first she was shy, left the looking to me. At first she was modest and submitted only because I wished her to. But in time, she developed something of a passion for the looking-glass too, and followed the reflection of our joining with a certain startled intensity in her gaze. Did she see what I saw? In the black pubic hair, ladies and gentlemen, weighing 170 pounds, at least half of which is still undigested halva and hot pastrami from Newark, New Jersey, the schnoz, Alexander Portnoy. And his opponent, in the fair fuzz, with her elegant polished limbs and the gentle maidenly face of a Botticelli, that ever-popular purveyor of the social amenities here in the garden, 114 pounds of Republican refinement and the pertest pair of nipples in all New England, from New Canaan, Connecticut, Sarah Abbott Malsby. What I'm saying, Doctor, is that I don't seem to stick my dick up these girls as much as I stick it up their backgrounds, as though through fucking I will discover America. Conquer America. Maybe that's more like it. Columbus, Captain Smith, Governor Winthrop, General Washington, now Portnoy. As though my manifest destiny is to seduce a girl from each of the 48 states. As for Alaskan and Hawaiian women, I really have no feelings either way, no scores to settle, no coupons to cash in, no dreams to put to rest. Who are they to me? A bunch of Eskimos and Orientals? No. I'm a child of the 40s, of network radio and World War II, of 8 teams to a league and 48 states to a country. I know all the words to the Marine hymn and to the caissons go rolling along and to the song of the Army Air Corps. I know the song of the Navy Air Corps. Sky anchors away, we're sailors of the air, we're sailing everywhere. I can even sing you the song of the Seabees. Go ahead, name your branch of service, Spielvogel. I'll sing you your song. Please, no, allow me, it's my money. We used to sit on our coats, I remember, on the concrete floor, our backs against the sturdy walls of the basement corridors of my grade school, singing in unison to keep up our morale until the all-clear signal sounded. Johnny Zero. Praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. The sky pilot said it. You've got to give him credit, for a son of a gunner was he. You name it, and if it was in the praise of the Stars and Stripes, I know it word for word. Yes, I am a child of air raid drills, Doctor. I remember Corregidor and the Cavalcade of America and that flag fluttering on its pole being raised at that heartbreaking angle over bloody Iwo Jima. Colin Kelly went down in flames when I was 8, and Hiroshima and Nagasaki went up in a puff 1 week when I was 12, and that was the heart of my boyhood. 4 years of hating Tojo, Hitler, and Mussolini, and loving this brave, determined republic, rooting my little Jewish heart out for our American democracy. Well, we won. The enemy's dead in an alley back of the Wilhelmstrasse, and dead because I prayed him dead. And now I want what's coming to me. My GI Bill, real American ass. The cunt in country 'tis of thee. I pledge allegiance to the twat of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Davenport, Iowa. Dayton, Ohio. Schenectady, New York, and neighboring Troy. Fort Myers, Florida. New Canaan, Connecticut. Chicago, Illinois. Albert Lee, Minnesota. Portland, Maine. Moundsville, West Virginia. Sweet land of Chicksatale. Of thee I sing. Imagine what it meant to me to know that generations of Malsbys were buried in the graveyard at Newburyport, Massachusetts, and generations of Abbotts in Salem. Land where my fathers died. Land of the Pilgrim's pride. Exactly. Oh, and more. Here was a girl whose mother's flesh crawled at the sound of the words Eleanor Roosevelt, who herself had been dandled on the knee of Wendell Willkie at Hobe Sound, Florida in 1942, while my father was saying prayers for FDR on the high holidays and my mother blessing him over the Friday night candles. The senator from Connecticut had been a roommate of her daddy's at Harvard, and her brother, Paunch, a graduate of Yale, held a seat on the New York Stock Exchange and, how lucky could I be, played polo. Yes, games from on top of a horse on Sunday afternoons someplace in Westchester County, as he had throughout college. She could have been a Lindaberry, don't you see? A daughter of my father's boss. Here was a girl who knew how to sail a boat, knew how to eat her dessert using 2 pieces of silverware, a piece of cake you could pick up in your hands, and you should have seen her manipulate it with that fork and that spoon, like a Chinese with his chopsticks. What skill she had learned in far-off Connecticut. Activities that partook of the exotic and even the taboo she performed so simply, as a matter of course. And I was as wowed, though that's not the whole story, as Desdemona, hearing of the anthropophagi. I came across a newspaper clipping in a scrapbook, a column entitled A Deb a Day, which began, Sarah Abbott Malsby. Ducks and quails and pheasants better scurry around New Canaan this fall because Sally, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Edward H. Malsby of Greenlee Road, is getting in practice for small game season. Shooting, with a gun doctor, shooting is just one of Sally's outdoor hobbies. She loves riding, too, and this summer hopes to try a rod and reel, and get this, I think this tale would win my son, too. Hopes to try a rod and reel on some of those trout that swim by Windview, her family's summer home. What Sally couldn't do was eat me. To shoot a gun at a little quack-quack is fine. To suck my cock is beyond her. She was sorry, she said, if I was going to take it so hard, but it was just something she didn't care to try. I mustn't act as though it were a personal affront, she said, because it had nothing at all to do with me as an individual. Oh, didn't it? Bullshit, girlie. Yes. What made me so irate was precisely my belief that I was being discriminated against. My father couldn't rise at Boston and Northeastern for the very same reason that Sally Malsby wouldn't deign to go down on me. Where was the justice in this world? Where was the B'nai B'rith Anti-Defamation League? I'd do it to you, I said. The pilgrim shrugged. Kindly, she said, You don't have to, though. You know that. If you don't want to. But I do want to. It isn't a matter of have to. I want to. Well, she answered, I don't. But why not? Because I don't. Oh, shit. That's the way a child answers, Sarah. Because. Give me a reason. I don't do that, that's all. But that brings us back to why. Why? Alex, I just can't. Give me a single good reason. Please, she replied, knowing her rights. I don't think I have to. No, she didn't have to, because to me the answer was clear enough anyway. Because you don't know how to hike out to windward, or what a jib is, because you have never owned evening clothes or been to a cotillion. Yes, sir, if I was some big blonde goy in a pink riding suit and $100 hunting boots, don't worry, she'd be down there eating me, of that I'm sure. I am wrong. 3 months I spent applying pressure to the back of her skull, pressure met by a surprising counterforce, an impressive, even moving display of stubbornness from such a mild and uncontentious person. For 3 months I assaulted her in argument and tugged her nightly by the ears. Then one night she invited me to hear the Budapest String Quartet playing Mozart at the Library of Congress. During the final movement of the clarinet quintet, she took hold of my hand, her cheeks began to shine, and when we got back to her apartment and into bed, Sally said, "Alex, I will." Will what? But she was gone, down beneath the covers and out of sight, blowing me. That is to say, she took my prick in her mouth and held it there for a count of 60. Held the surprised little thing there, doctor, like a thermometer. I threw back the blankets. This I had to see. Feel, there wasn't very much to feel, but oh, the sight of it. Only Sally was already finished, having moved it by now to the side of her face, as though it were the gear shift of her Hillman minx, and there were tears on her face. "I did it," she announced. "Sally. Oh, Sarah, don't cry." "But I did do it, Alex." "You mean," I said, "that's all?" "You mean," she gasped, "more?" "Well, to be frank, a little more, I mean to be truthful with you, it wouldn't go unappreciated. But it's getting big. I'll suffocate." Jew smothers Deb with cock. Vassar grad, Georgetown strangulation victim. Maki lawyer held. "Not if you breathe. You won't." "I will. I'll choke." "Sarah, the best safeguard against asphyxiation is breathing. Just breathe, and that's all there is to it, more or less." God bless her. She tried, but came up gagging. "I told you," she moaned. "But you weren't breathing." "I can't with that in my mouth." "Through your nose. Pretend you're swimming." "But I'm not." "Pretend," I suggested, and though she gave another gallant try, surfaced only seconds later in an agony of coughing and tears. I gathered her then in my arms, that lovely, willing girl, convinced by Mozart to go down on Alex. Oh, sweet as Natasha in War and Peace, a tender young countess. I rocked her, I teased her, I made her laugh. For the first time I said, "I love you too, my baby." But of course it couldn't have been clearer to me that despite all her many qualities and charms, her devotion, her beauty, her deer-like grace, her place in American history, there could never be any love in me for the pilgrim. Intolerant of her frailties, jealous of her accomplishments, resentful of her family. No, not much room there for love. No, Sally Malsby was just something nice a son once did for his dad. A little vengeance on Mr. Lindaberry for all those nights and Sundays Jack Portnoy spent collecting down in the colored district. A little bonus extracted from Boston and Northeastern for all those years of service and exploitation.